today. It's by Ram Buddha and Mafugata. Over to you, sir.
Okay, morning, colleagues. Yeah, we have our paper, and I just want to present it in this way. Now, this is the title of our paper, Student Leadership and Participatory Governance in South African Higher Education, Shaping Administrative Practices and Institutional Reform. So, the overview of our presentation will be as follows. Now, we have introduction and the background, aim and research questions, theoretical framework, methodology, results and discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. Now, in connection with introduction, here we find that South African universities face pressures, they face challenges when it comes to the issue of transformation. So here we find that inclusive student-led leadership is of utmost importance when it comes to building responsive and resilient institutions. Now, there are structural challenges in as far as governance is concerned in universities. Now, number one, we have the issue of legacy of exclusion. Here, you'll agree with me that apartheid left deep inequalities in access, representation, and also institutional culture. So there is also the issue of fragmented governance. There is unclear authority between university councils, executives, and student bodies, and this leads to confusion and instability in our institutions. We also have the issue of reactive leadership approaches. Now here, it means that there is no prevention, there is no issue of presenting crisis. There is no plan in as far as the issue of crisis are concerned in our universities. Leadership responds to crisis without long-term planning. The other issue, we also have the gaps in participation. Here we have the gap of student voices which are sidelined. Student voices are sidelined in as far as our university is concerned. Why? It's because despite the so-called the legal mandates, if you remember, HE law mandates students to get involved in as far as leadership is concerned or in governance, but they are looked down upon. We also have the issue of limited training and support. Student leaders are expected now to negotiate, to give their viewpoints in the presence of seasoned experts in as far as policy is concerned. And this brings confusion in as far as the issue of governance is concerned. We also have the issue of power imbalances, the issue of undeveloped crisis response system. Now, besides that, but transformation is needed. Why? Because there is no real transformation without student inclusion. Students are agents of change. They are drivers of change. So, in order for transformation to take place, so there must be student inclusion. and the issue of resilience, which grows through shared leadership, and also the issue of relevancy, which requires adapting to social, economic, and political shifts. Now, now we come to the aim and research question. The aim of our study is to examine how student leadership and participatory governance influence administrative practices and drive institutional reform in South African universities. Now, here are the research questions that are follow, so I don't want to read them all. Let me read one for you. How do student leaders participate in university governance structure? Then I'm rushing to theoretical framework. Now, when it comes to theoretical framework, we thought it should be better for us if we make use of this one, which is participatory democracy theory. Why? Because it has the following reason, because of the following reasons. Legal backing. So, according to the law, students are protected now to get involved or to participate in what we call in governance. Student voice. It believes in student voice. So, because students are seen as active decision makers, not just observers. Now, it believes in transparency and accountability. It helps students make decisions more open and fair. And also it encourages bottom-up reform. So this means that if students are included, so they will be able now to express their viewpoints, and the reform will start from bottom. And again, it redresses exclusion. Now, I said, or I indicated to you that when it comes to apartheid, so it left in deep inequalities. So students were excluded in the governance. So let's go quick to methodology. Now, our methodology, research design, now it's a qualitative, multi-method design. Now, and we substantiate why this qualitative design. Now, the methods that we used: case studies, literature review, desktop, etc. Now, data analysis, thematic analysis. We make sure that triangulation will be able now to verify findings and enhance credibility in our paper. Ethical consideration, now ethical processes were followed. Now, key themes identified in our paper: student voice and representation, leadership, capacity and support, power dynamics, police engagement, and governance crisis management. Results discussion. Now, we have symbolic versus meaningful participation. Students are formally included in governance, but their influence is often limited. Participation tends to be symbolic. Voices are heard, but rarely shape decisions. We also have the issue of student leadership as a catalyst for reform. Governance barriers, limited access to decision-making spaces. Conclusion. Student leadership is key to creating inclusive and responsive universities. While policies support participation, real influence is often lacking. Genuine reform happens when students' voices are heard, supported, and empowered. So, we encourage the inclusion of students in as far as governance is concerned. Our recommendation: build capacity, institutionalize participation, enable access, foster inclusion, monitor engagement, innovate participation. I thank you.
Thank you very for the presentation. We will now have the second presenter, and after the third presenter, then it will be discussion. Just one announcement to say that please note that your presentations are live on Facebook and YouTube. So that is the announcement from the organizers that these are live from YouTube and Facebook. Colleagues, as you present, you are given 15 minutes. Try to tell your story in that 15 minutes, capturing everything, capturing the important issues in your presentation going forward. Because if you want to tell us everything from your paper, you won't be able to finish. Try to prioritize things that you feel are very important for your presentation. So we'll have the second presentation now by the first presenter from our program, Tsimbiri, LB Tsimbiri, from University of Malawi.
I need the, sorry, SOS. I think my laptop is about to die. I don't have this suitable adapter for me. I don't know if... Sorry? My power supply. I can pick it. Oh, but this is round, is it? Is that the right thing?
Let's see. But it's not picking up.
Unable to fit.
Oh, using, okay. Let me see. Is there anyone who is around this type of rate? Like this one?
Sorry, I thought I could be, I could start whilst. Oh, thanks very much. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Thank you very much. Excuse me. It is stuck. Yes, I would. I know. Let me check now. This one. This one. Okay. It's just round.
Were your laptop restarted or?
No, I was copying something. Okay. So this.
Which one is it?
This one.
This one.
Oh, no, I can take it from.
Take it there. Is it
I
on
think it's in there. It's in both because I was. In that one. So academic, yes. It's the same one.
Good.
Okay. Thanks very much. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you for your patience. I'm Professor Louis Zimbiri from the University of Malawi in Malawi. And this paper, Academic Staff Development in Higher Education Institutions, a call for a paradigm shift, is both experiential as well as an extensive literature review. I have taught at the University of Botswana, University of Malawi, Midland State University in Zimbabwe, Great Zimbabwe University, and University of Malawi for many years, and other universities. And the issue that has been emerging throughout is staff development. Heads, deans, directors, and even lecturers in relation to how to teach, how to do research, among other things. Staff development is a key issue because people have to be equipped with skills and knowledge, as well as competences to perform their jobs. People are in leadership positions, but they have not had formal training in leadership and management, and they have to be trained. So, as I've already indicated, I need just to tell the story that we know higher education institutions are regarded and recognized by governments as agencies for capacity building. And even Malawi has a vision of 2063, and human capital development is one of the key enablers. But the question is, how is academic staff developed in educational institutions? My experience in various universities show one thing, and this is to show that most of the human resource development approaches are not systematic, and that mostly they end up being what we call educational model, where the teacher, the subject matter, is at the center, and the students or learners are like maybe empty buckets where knowledge is being poured in from time to time. My colleague who just left here was talking about participation of students in various areas, but I'm also talking about the participation of staff and trainees in the process of learning for them to acquire knowledge and skills. So because of that, I thought I should emphasize that training is supposed to be systematic. And when it is systematic, it takes into account the need of the organization for performance. But if it is educational model, it's about disseminating information, and that information may not be of use to industry. And that is why there's always a cry from industry that there's a disconnect between what industry wants and what universities are producing. As a result, we end up in producing graduates that may not be employable because we are not using the organizational model in mind. So, just to mention that even at independence in most developing countries, that's part of the literature review, training was seen as the best way of preparing the new nations to have capacity to implement programs of socioeconomic development. But what happened was that the nature of the approach was not systematic, gaps were not identified, design was not taking into account of the needs of the gaps for performance in the organizations. As a result, training institutions, universities, colleges were criticized for not equipping people with relevant skills. And this story is around the world. Now, what dominated was the education model, like classroom dominance, teacher-centered approaches, and already, the way the methods of delivery were conducted were, in a way, lacking. In other ways, little participation and little relationships between even training, research, and consultancy. So, training is something that is supposed to be systematic, and that when it is systematic, we need to have first training needs assessment. What are the needs? What are the gaps? If it is heads, deans, directors, if it is lecturers, what is it that are the gaps in knowledge and competences? Then that is training needs assessment first. So they have to participate in trying to reveal their gaps. Then we design training based on those gaps, and then the training program is developed and implemented. And we evaluate to see the extent to which skills and knowledge gaps have been closed. If that's organizational model. Whereas the education model, you are interested in taking off the shelf. Some of even our curricular syllabuses topics are what we pick from the shelf and have a course outline, which has not had any participation, from the people who have to learn. That's the systematic approach. That's the organizational model, which of course is crucial. I will give you 2 case studies of how I personally was involved. The educational model, especially with the orientation programs for heads, deans, directors in the University of Malawi, for many years I have been involved as someone with leadership and management background. I have always been, orienting heads and deans and directors in management because they are assuming managerial roles and therefore they have to have knowledge in management processes. But how are topics identified? I would just be given topics from program organizers just off the shelf without necessarily undertaking a needs assessment. And when it comes to training, delivery, you find that the knowledge that is given to people. They can be equipped with that knowledge. The lecture method is so dominant, little group discussions, little role plays, little practical experiences among the trainees. In the end, they leave the training program with knowledge, but not the skill. Now, this is something I have done for many, many years. And I've tried to give advice, but because the authority to bring the program is somewhere, and I'm only asked to facilitate. But there was a time when I was in charge, another institution, Staff Development Institute, I was asked to train staff on research and consultancy skills. The first thing, because I was in charge, was that I had to go to that institute and talk to various people to understand their capacity gaps in research and consultancy. How many? 5 minutes. Then later on, I then designed the training based on those needs. And as we went on delivering, I was only structuring the learning environment. For instance, when I had to say training, also research, you need to have a good topic. I would just explain what a good topic is, but immediately I would ask everyone to write their topic of study. Then when I say you need to have an introduction where you have to introduce the focus of your study and the issues that you are going to examine, I stop there and then ask people to do that. And they would do that, each one could read, they could critique each other, and we proceed. Then I would explain research need to have background. Without background, problems don't just come from the blues, they have a context. So when you tell them what is required in the background to a research program, then ask them to do what they should do for their topic, and they would do that. When you begin to talk about problem statement, you explain what it is and what it involves, and then later on, ask them to do their problem statement. So step by step, up to the point of objectives and good objectives, you give them, they have to define, write their objectives, all the way through to finish the research proposal. By the time they are leaving, each one has written their research proposal. In other ways, they have learned the knowledge, but they have also practiced at the same time. The same thing with consultancy skills. That was another program, another day. I did the same. The process of needs assessment, and then at the same time, in the process of learning, facilitating learning, I found myself doing the same thing. As a result, trainees become empowered. They come out with practical experience. If it is a document, they come with a document, and the learning itself is action learning. They learn whilst they are doing whilst they are learning, and this equips them and they become strong and solid and confident. So in the educational model, there's little involvement of trainees in the learning process. No consultation in terms of their gaps. The design is done by the individuals. They just lecture, and then in the end, the program comes to an end. But if we want to equip, trainees with knowledge, skills, and competences, we need to find out what are the gaps in them. They should tell us, and then design along with that. And as a result, when teaching and learning, the methodology should be that one that empowers them to get skills and competences. And as such, they come out competent, confident, and they can do things without any problem. Maybe I should stop there and emphasize that let's go and shift our approach to training from the educational model to one which is highly participatory, that will empower and equip our target group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We'll now have the third presentation, and then after the third presentation, we'll get straight into discussion. Just a reminder that please note that these presentations are live on YouTube and Facebook. Yes, you can go. So it's 15 minutes presentation. Just tell your story within that 15 minutes.
Can you come and assist before I mess up your things? I'm under pressure. I can just break this thing. Okay, please. Slight move.
Wait. We are moving the cursor while I'm busy. Which one is it?
This one. Go down. Just minimize everything.
Sorry.
Minimize everything. Minimize, yes. It's this one.
But you
This
opened a lot of presentations.
Look.
Why did you open so many presentations? Sorry?
Yes. It's not that one.
Which one is it?
Delete those, yes.
Must I close this
Come,
one?
close that one. Close. Open this one, yeah. close here. Then open. Yes, that one. Okay. Good morning, ladies, professors, doctors. Let me take this opportunity. Okay. Good morning. Let me take this opportunity and present. My topic is there. I am looking at the transformation in the higher education institutions. Is it far? Okay. In higher education institutions, the leadership it needs to be inclusive. It needs to be across. In the rural universities, there are challenges of global competitiveness and local equity imperatives. There is a lot of lack of equity. There are barriers, including underfunding, because underfunding is another barrier. The literature review. When we're talking about transformation in higher education, it is a broad term. It includes changing in both structure and knowledge. It is just not a transformation. There's a lot that is in talk about transformation. It means changing the way institutions work. It means changing the way institutions are run. It means the way resources are shared and make things fair for everybody. It requires a complete rethinking of how we know things, what we teach, and how we organize information. So that is the need that is required. Transformation in higher education institution, it requires everybody to be part of it. Theoretical framework that is used. Transformational leadership theory is used. It emphasizes vision, inspiration, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. When we're talking individualized consideration, we're talking not use a blanket approach, whereby everybody individually is considered in his or her own space. Everybody is included in whatever. Another theoretical framework that I saw it's relevant, it's equity, diverse, and inclusion leadership theory. What is it saying? It focuses on dismantling structural barriers in curricula, in governance, and in staffing. It assists in that. It embeds fairness. It embeds justice. It is looking and it is making sure, it is looking at how justice can be used, how justice can be turned to everybody without looking at the level of the knowledge, without looking at the level of the person. Why using these theories? Both of these theories addresses systematic inequalities. They are all looking at inequalities that are going on in the institution of higher learning. They both provide complementary lenses. Transformational leadership drives vision, innovation, while EDI, as they are equity, diversity, and inclusion. I shortened it there since I gave the full name. While leadership ensures justice and inclusivity. institution faces legacies of apartheid, underfunding, and digital divides. Then transformation is going to interact in that. That is why it is necessary for institutions to transform. Which methodologies? Research paradigm that is used is interpretivism. Why using this? The reality is socially constructed. The context in the interpretism is clear, as it says. It interprets the concepts. Here, concepts need to be interpreted because there are many people that are involved. Everybody in transformation, starting from a student, a lecturer, and a manager. There is a lot, everyone is involved here, and everyone is needed. The ideas are needed. That is why the institutions will be able to transform, is for them to be able to know what is going on in the class, what lecturers are in need of, where the managers, because there are managers who are having the vision, but some of them, they are closed in because of the system. There are managers who are able to take students from the ground level up to the upper level. But because of transformation, some managers, they are in their corners and it needs attention. And they sometimes affect the progress in those who are willing to work. Other findings. Leadership conceptualization. Some higher education institutions in Cape view transformation narrowly. They don't look at transformation in a wide range. When they talk transformation, they talk it into a narrow, sometimes they are doing it for their own purposes, whoever is doing it, because there is a lot that is affected in this transformation. Then it needs inclusive practices, where policies included measurable goals, e.g. gender, equity, disabilities, support, bilingual education, progress is evident. Barriers, structural underfunding, entrenched organizational cultures, and ambiguous policies, frameworks which continue to undermine inclusive transformation. Because some policies, as much as the academics are working so hard in correcting those ambiguities, because some policies, they still undermine those people with disabilities. They sometimes not included, even the framework, even the structure of the institution. You will find out sometimes those people, they are having some challenges, but it's not, thank you. I'm left with 5 minutes, excuse me, thank you. Okay, what do I recommend? Strengthen inclusive leadership. The inclusive leadership needs to be strengthened. In the leadership, let alone that those who are in leadership, some of them, they are able. Some of them, they are able to do it, but there are others, because of the policies. Some, they cannot jump because the policies are closing in sometimes. Institutional role, university approaches, break silos. People need not to work in silos. There should be collaboration. Where there is collaboration, there is effectiveness. I just want to jump other things because, conclusion, leadership is a decisive factor shaping the success of transformation and inclusivity. A strong leadership vision linked to justice and equity is accelerated. Barriers such as underfunding, organizational resistance, and policy ambiguities, those are the challenges that they need to be addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This is discussion time now. I'm going to request all the three presenters to come and join me here. I've prepared the hot seats for you. There are 3 hot seats here. So what is going to happen now, to manage this effectively, I'm going to request a first round of 3 questions per the presenter. Here are your seats here, colleagues.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah,
stay.
come in, or you prefer to stand?
No, I'm fine. He's standing.
You're fine? Or the camera, yeah. Or do you want to stay? Okay.
No, this one is mine. I just gave him the charger. Yes. So I don't know. I think the guy, the IT guy is going to assist. Tabisa. Tabisa. Come forward.
Questions, first 3 questions.
This one is mine. Forward. Voting for me.
Okay, that's first question there. Another question? Here, another one? There, yeah, in that particular order. Oh.
Thank you very much. Let me break the ice. To the presenter number 1, I heard you use the Prisma model in terms of your analysis. Though you did not indicate you used systematic content analysis, I presume, because Prisma is for systematic content analysis. But now, my worry is I did not see any policy gap in your study that you are trying to address. So that is one element that you were supposed to seriously highlight. And then the number 2, you did not indicate your inclusion and exclusion criteria. You know, when you use Prisma model, you should show us how many articles did you search, how did you search them, and all those things. You were supposed to put that formula there so that we can know how did you include and your exclusion, and how did the articles that you selected, did you select them based on abstracts, and because those are the fundamentals of the systematic analysis. And then I also did not see a theory on that aspect. And then the last presenter, I noted you indicated the qualitative content analysis, but you did not tell us what did you use in your content analysis. Was it Atlas TI? Which software did you use in terms of your analysis? Otherwise, we assume you were just coming up with conclusions. Indicate the software that you used so that it will be convincing as a researcher. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My question goes to actually not really a question or comment, you will take it as such. The last presenter, my sister at the far right. I heard you talking of 2 theories. So then, under normal circumstances, whenever you use theories, you need to be careful about how to arrive at the conclusion. If you continue to use them, it means each one of them should reach saturation so that you can be able to arrive at the conclusion. And you cannot change and say, it is a conceptual framework. So you need to be clear. If you want to use both of them, each one of them must have its own conclusion, or else you put them together and form a conceptual framework. That's what I wanted to advise.
Good morning. Unfortunately, I missed the first speaker. I came in with the second speaker, and I took the advice. Now, the third speaker, I just want to check because we normally talk about transformation and we have systems. I mean, if you talk about transformation in higher education, we still have the colonial structure of how the universities or whatever leadership is there. And I did not sort of hear, I mean, I think that context is important so that we know what to transform and what is not to be transformed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to allow the presenters to respond to the comments and the question asked, and then after that, we'll take the second round.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to thank the advice. I've been advised, so I will go and include what you were talking about. It's just unfortunate that, of course, I left it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with the last one. Thank you for the question. I will note the context, but what I was saying, transformation in the higher education institutions is needed wholly, starting from the student, the lecturer, the managers, the executive managers. So I am noting that I need to go deeper. Then, in the issue of theories, I used 2 theories, and I promised to exhaust both of them because they talked to my topic, both of them. That's why I liked to use them. But I note and acknowledge what you are saying, that I need to make sure that I must exhaust both of them. Because it may go, I'm not going to lie, maybe I was going to be tempted to concentrate on one that is interesting to me, maybe. So now that you have said it that and emphasized that, I must make sure that both of them, I go with them until the end, and I exhaust both of them. I promise I'll do that. Thank you so much. With you, with you, Doc, I don't know what, Doc, thank you so much for your, I think that one is a wake-up call, and after the presentation, I need to have coffee with you for some advices. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks like all the presenters is still work in progress, so that's what they are saying. Let's go for the second round. Second round of questions. Then if there are no second round of questions, I'd like to thank the presenters for presenting their work, which is still work in progress. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, colleagues, we are going to continue with our presentations. Please note that this session is live on YouTube and Facebook. Can I get an indication as to whether Ngama, Matenda, Damase are here from Oltasi Sulu? They are not here. Oh, they are not here. Okay, thanks. Can I get an indication as to whether Ndei, Nomchongwana are here? They are not here. Okay. They are not attending a conference. Okay. Okay, colleagues, without wasting time, we are going to, can I also get an indication as to Muila from UNISA is here or not? Muila? Okay, it looks like they are not here. So the next presenters, the next two presenters, I'm mindful of time. No, the next three presenters will be Shibambo, Mahlaji, and Kwiliza and Diko. So in that particular order, we'll start with Shibambo, following with Mahlaji, and the third presenters will be Kwiliza and Diko. Over to you, Shibambo. So we'll have 15 minutes presentation where you need to tell your story within that 15 minutes. You don't have to tell us everything in your presentation. Pick up the critical areas in your presentation and tell us for 15 minutes. And then after, we'll get the next presenter and the third presenter. Then after the third presenter, we'll have a discussion. So let's move in that particular fashion. Please jot down the questions because it's important for presenters to get feedback so that they can go and improve their work post this conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Program Director and the audience. My name is Amos, and then the co-author of this paper is Gloria. Unfortunately, she is not here, and she's the one who was supposed to be presenting this paper. She just changed it at the last minute. Then the title, as you can see, it is more of the utilization of ICT to support public primary school libraries in Highveld Ridge, East Circuit in Mpumalanga province. It has also always been noted that the school libraries enhance teaching and learning, offering new opportunities for experimentation beyond conventional methods. In the primary schools, libraries serve as key entry points for introducing learners to ICT, where early exposure to digital tools significantly enhance knowledge acquisition. The Transformation Library and Information Services Charter and the DBE, I'm referring to the Department of Basic Education, stress the importance of equipping school libraries with essential ICT resources, such as educational software, electronic databases, and multimedia tools to support the curriculum and boost educational outcomes. Despite the ICT benefits, studies have consistently shown that many school libraries, particularly in developing countries, face a shortage of ICT facilities, as well as the shortage of skilled personnel to support the meaningful integration. Other studies have gone beyond and showed that persistent disparities in ICT provision, with rural schools facing greater barriers such as unreliable internet connectivity, insufficient hardware, and limited staff training. Mpumalanga, as a province, specifically the Gert-Sibande district, where the study was conducted, continues to experience these challenges, as many primary schools either do not have functional libraries or have libraries that are underutilized due to inadequate ICT resources. This situation is different from what we have seen in countries such as Malaysia, where functional school libraries with ICT infrastructure are more common and actively used to promote learner engagement. Although several studies have examined ICT in education broadly, there are limited studies focusing on how ICT is utilized specifically within the school libraries in South Africa or in the South African primary schools, particularly in Mpumalanga. The gap makes it unclear how ICT facilities where they exist are currently supporting school library functions and what barriers hinder their effective utilization. The central problem that motivated this study was the low utilization of ICT in school libraries due to insufficient access to appropriate facilities compounded by limited ICT knowledge and skills among the learners and the teachers. To address this problem will be unnecessary. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to say addressing the problem is necessary because without effective ICT supported libraries, learners in Mpumalanga province are disadvantaged in acquiring digital literacy skills that are critical in the 21st century. This study applied the TAM, Technology Acceptance Model. TAM posits that the two core constructs, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, that influence users' attitude towards technology adoption, which in turn affects their behavioral intention to use and actual system usage. It is relevant for understanding how learners, teachers, and teacher librarians interact with digital tools and how their attitudes influence technology adoption. I'm trying to rush so that I don't get cut off. The purpose of this study was to explore the utilization of ICTs to support public primary school libraries in the Highveld Ridge East Circuit at Gert Sibande district in Mpumalanga. The objectives looked at assessing the extent to which ICT resources are utilized in primary school libraries, and to identify and describe the digital platforms available in primary school libraries in the same area that I just mentioned. The methodology goes as follows. It was underpinned to the pragmatism. Under pragmatism, we have got the mixed method research, which is the approach. The design that was applicable for this study is the explanatory sequential mixed method design. This is where quantitative data precedes the qualitative data during the collection. The study was conducted at the Highveld Ridge East Circuit of the Gert Sibande district, which comprises 27 schools, including 19 primary schools. The population comprised grade 7 learners, teachers of grade 4 to 7, and teacher librarians. After all, the population that was looked at, the final sample size was 100, where the learners were 75, and 75 grade 7 learners, 20 teachers, and 5 teacher librarians from 5 randomly selected primary schools. The sampling followed both probability and non-probability. Learners were selected using stratified random sampling to ensure representation of boys and girls, while teachers, one per grade per school, and teacher librarians were selected purposefully due to their direct involvement in teaching and school library management. This approach ensured that the participants possessed relevant experience with ICT utilization in school libraries. Then the discussions and findings. The first objective was discussed as follows. The findings revealed that ICT resources in 5 schools were available and utilized by learners, teachers, and teacher librarians, but the ICTs in 5 schools were not the same. The access was also different due to the number of enrollments against the devices. Moreover, it was indicated that they were in use but limited due to the number of ICT resources per school libraries. The findings went further to show that 61% of the surveyed learners used TV to watch educational activities, programs, while 29 or 37% did not. The data indicated that high number of learners used audio players to listen to educational activities. Additionally, 20% respondents used computers while 50% did not. The data showed further that there were no learners that had laptops. And when we looked at the qualitative data that was collected, it supported what I mentioned above. Here is the diagram to show what I have been explaining. The second objective showed that data indicated that only 15 of schools indicated that learners have access to electronic books, while 80% of schools do not provide these resources. Then the last sentence or the last bullet shows that there was a unanimous agreement among teacher librarians regarding the high utility of library software automation, even among those using Excel spreadsheet. In conclusion, to enhance equal access to ICT resources, schools can standardize their ICT availability and digital platforms through government grants. Encouraging the use of underutilized devices such as laptops and tablets can be achieved by integrating them into the curriculum, offering teacher training and creating ICT hubs. To improve ICT use frequency among learners, schools can schedule regular ICT time, promote collaborative learning, and launch digital literacy programs. It is recommended that equity in access by addressing disparities in ICT access through funding, resource sharing, and infrastructure improvements. Schools can ensure a more equitable learning environment. Effective use of resources encourage active use of underutilized tools such as laptops and tablets while integrating technology into the curriculum and providing professional development that will enhance both learner engagement and teacher proficiency, digital platforms and collaboration, increasing access to digital platforms and expanding the use of educational games and collaboration tools such as WhatsApp and Teams will strengthen both teaching and administrative functions. The last one, monitoring and feedback. Implementing monitoring systems and feedback mechanisms will optimize resource allocation and measure ICT benefits, enabling schools to continuously adapt and improve their digital capabilities. Thank you. Standing here, it's not that easy. It is nice when I'm sitting there asking, contributing. So can you hear that I'm shaking and I don't even know why? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm looking at how many presenters left now. There are 3. So we are going to rearrange the whole thing. That is, after this presenter, now we'll have discussion so that it can take us to tea time. So after tea time, we'll have the last 2 presentations. So that is how are we going to structure our presentations going forward. So we'll have the second presenter presenting, then after that we go straight to discussions. Please jot down your questions so that we can engage them. Your feedback is critical to them so that they can improve their papers. Colleagues, please note that these presentations are live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to present, but I want also to give the context or the direction of our presentation. As you can see, I'm from UNISA. For those of you who have never been to UNISA, at least you have the privilege to see the nice picture there. It's such a nice university. At the university, the new principal came up with what we call catalytic niche areas, so that when the research is done in line with trying to solve whatever the problems that align with the university. Now, the study that I'm going to present aligned with catalytic niche area number 10, which is about student support and co-curricular activities. This is basically to say institutions should now prepare students beyond academic roles. I think that's what the second speaker, as I was coming in talking about. We need to develop our students beyond just becoming knowledgeable. So that is basically I'm saying this because I wanted to give you the context that we are presenting and researching in line with that niche area. Now, the topic here is student leadership in academic libraries, exploring the role of library prefects in Ghana College of Education. Now, Ruben Sa, which is my co-presenter and the first author here, couldn't make it to South Africa, but we are going to do this together, and as he also part of the UNISA as a student. Now, just to give the introduction, we are saying the academic libraries now have transformed. They've transformed in a manner that now they are no longer just looked as the collection or repositories, but they are active in the sense that we have various services like the use of social media, the online databases, the digital access, and so on and so on. But what we are saying is that the student as the main stakeholder, they need to integrate the student leadership. I mean, we all know that students are very active participants, and especially when you look at the leadership, they are able to do things at the university.
So if the students have to strike or to do something, they are always there. So this study basically recognizes that, and to say we need students' engagement and leadership in academic libraries. Now, the challenge now, or the reason for our study, is the fact that when we look at the literature, we realize that most of these studies are focusing on Western university context, obviously not our African context or African model. So they're looking at, in Western context, they have structured programs for student leadership to be integrated in academic activities. Unlike in our context, we just have those non-formal structures. So now, given this limited understanding, it is very much important to do research. But fortunately, in Ghana, hence this study is based in Ghana, they have a prefect system. The prefect system is just beyond being the class rep as you used to know it at high school, but is also some level of leadership at the university. Now, the situation is such that this student leadership are assisting in libraries in various activities, like our circulation, like supporting training for the students when the librarians have to teach information literacy, for example, and then they are involved. As I've already indicated, there are no studies related to that has been done, and we are saying if we don't have evidence, if you don't research about this, the fact that library prefects or the student leadership are involved, they might be underutilized, or maybe more challenges will arise this. So now, as I've given the introduction, the main aim was just to explore the roles of library prefects in selected Ghanaian colleges of education, to assess the objectives, the expectations, what do they expected to do, what activities are they supposed to perform, what are the factors that will affect them in order for them to perform those specific roles, but most importantly was to identify the best practices so that we could be able to alleviate the challenges that may arise there. But because we have already indicated that there are no formal or clear structures, it is very much important that this study is aimed as to somewhat contribute towards the development of either guidelines or policy development or framework that will guide, so that in future they are guided. Now, the role theory was used as a theoretical framework. The role theory, obviously, is about key components. The role expectations, as you have heard from the objective, is about what is it that an individual is expected to do. And then the role performance is about the real activities that are performed. And then the role strain will be about the factors. What are things that are likely to affect the activities, like what are the tensions, what are the things that will either contribute positively or negatively towards those activities. Now, we also have the role conflict, which also say what are the conflicting factors. If the students have to, the library prefects have to perform this role, are there any other things that might affect that? So that is basically the role theory that was applied. And of course, this was a qualitative study which included 7 colleges of education in Ghana. And then the focus of the population was from the librarians and those library prefects. And then, of course, we had 12 prefects and 7 librarians who participated in the study. Basically, they were, maybe we did not give details here. In other colleges, we had one, while in other colleges, we have 2 library prefects. Of course, there were semi-structured interviews. Given the technology and that we were doing this together, we had to rely on Zoom so that we are able to interview the the participants wherever they were. And now, just quickly to go to the findings, in line with the role expectation, that is objective number 1, we found that the library prefects are either appointed by the librarian at the college, or they are through student election. In one college, they were voting like they are voting for their leadership. So that's how they get to be there. Now, only one college at least had a documented role of what this they are expected to do. And then otherwise, the rest of the college, the roles, what is it, the expectation was done through interviews, that as they were interviewing them, they were giving them, this is what you're expected to do, this is what you'll do, and so on and so on. So they did not have the exact role in place written, maybe in black and white or somewhere, but whatever that it was discussed during the interview, that's where now you know that this is what you need to perform. Now, secondly, about the performance, role performance, the role performance came out in 2 ways, that it was about operation, but also about service. What happened is that the library prefect have to come before the librarians themselves in the library to make sure that by 7:30, the earliest they are there to come, and they were also doing some cleaning, checking some equipment, and then also that they will replace the library staff when they were not there. And then, of course, they were flexible. They did not have exact operational hours. Their working hours was dependent on who's not there. On the other side, they became the frontline assistants, because they used to search for students or for users, to educate their peers in terms of the rules of the library. For example, if you go to any library, we have signs like the no food, keep silence, how many hours to use your internet. So that became their role. But also, what was happening is that in the process, they were gaining some skills in IT, in typing, in digitization, because some of these colleges are digitizing. So, like, for example, the question papers. Now, coming to the role strain, it was found that these library prefects were heavy loaded, because, as I've already indicated, they were coming in at 5:30 to make sure that they prepare the library before the real workers come in. And then this also became a problem, especially during exams, where now the library hours are being increased, and then at the same time, there are students they're supposed to prepare, but they also have to be available for those extra hours that were there. Now, the other challenge is that as much as they were thought to be the good advocate for their peers, but sometimes they felt that there was a little bit of misunderstanding to say, you are both students, you cannot tell us what to do and not what to do. And then, of course, there wasn't any training or limited one regarding the technical services, but also it was stressful on their side, because they're now supervising your peers. As I've already indicated, there were those challenges. But then when coming to the role conflict, as I've already indicated, again, they were clash with academic schedules. Sometimes, if the library staff has to go somewhere, they're expecting these people to come in and replace them, but sometimes it's a period that is exempt for them. So they end up missing lectures, for example, and then they have to also come up with the coping strategies, and then as to how they manage that. So given that, it was important to, as we have indicated, the main aim was to identify the best practices and the challenges, so that we could contribute to developing guidelines or formal guidelines. As we've already indicated, there are no clear guidelines, but we think student leadership can play a better role. The only thing that they need guidance, they need proper rules. Now, what we recommend is that this should be formalized. It should be formalized because like we have indicated, there's nothing says that when you are a library prefect, you are working in the library, this is what you need to do. Hence, they had such problems of having clashing issues. And even the library staff will decide when they come in and the duties. As I've already indicated that there were no rules, but as you were interviewed, they were told what to do and not what to do. Now, the issue of staff now relying on them was also a critical issue. So it's a matter of finding ways to address the staffing gaps. But what is also important is to give them the necessary training, include the technical skill, but also even the conflict management courses, for example, because of how to deal with their peers, especially when now they could not do that. Now, the issue of also coming with a guideline as to how they should manage, I mean, maybe having a proper policy or a schedule to say how many hours should they work so that they don't just work randomly and now so many things end up being affected. As a teacher, I think I've took less than 3 minutes.
You don't have to go down. You can occupy your hot seat. Shibambo, please come on board as well. Please occupy your hot seats. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. We'll take the first round of 3 questions. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks very much. I can see the issues are to do with libraries, which of course is very significant. The first presentation, I just wanted to say, initially I thought you didn't have objectives because you immediately after the problem statement is when I expected the objectives. And then, but eventually I saw them after you brought in the theoretical framework, which I expected would come probably after these overall and specific objectives. But let me comment also on objective number 2. It seems it's double-barreled. In other ways, specific objective, you need to have one action verb. For instance, there's identify and describe in one, methodologically and the logic of research, we expect one actionable verb to be pursued. So although identify is too small, but still is an active action verb, so you don't combine. That's what I thought you may need to attend to that. So when it came to paper 2, the student support system is also the purpose of ensuring that we have library prefects, operating as a student support. Maybe what I could say is it's very, very novel. It's something that is an initiative. But also, looking at how you have already answered, I think it is a reflection of staffing in the library system. Because here, when we use students, and you've already shown students are denied their opportunity, they miss classes, they do this and that, it means they are misplaced. So I think the issue of sorting out the staffing, which you have already identified, is an important thing to pursue rather than using students. I think other than that, it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. My first comment will go to the first presenter. You spoke about those libraries in Mpumalanga, but I didn't get the meaning of ICT per se, because you just indicated that when you went down, it showed that in some schools there were certain elements which in other schools are not there. I request that in your paper show what you exactly mean by ICT. Define your ICT so that we can all of us be on the same page. The second presenter, I wanted to check, what is the role of the prefects in the new ICT? Because most of the times, people no longer go to libraries to get those books. I know University of Limpopo used to have those student assistants in the libraries. So what is their new role in terms of ICT, where books and journals are now found online? Most of the books are online. Thank you.
Thank you. My question goes to the first presenter. In your theoretical framework, you said you used term. As we all know that we have a key construct in that theory. My question is, did your study extend the framework by adding factors like government support, digital skills, or access to e-resources? Because in your study, your topic talked about ICT in libraries. And also my second question is from your methodology. You said you use quantitative survey. How did you analyze those surveys in your data analysis? Because you didn't show that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There are comments and questions. You are free to respond to those comments and questions.
Thank you very much. The comments are highly appreciated. I'm going to make changes as per your advice. And again, to the spectator that mentioned the ICT definition so that everyone can understand, I will surely do that so that everyone can see which angle of ICT is expected to be known. Then, to the term, I will have to ask you again, because actually I didn't get you properly. But on the methodology, then the qualitative data was thematically analyzed, and then the quantitative data, we used Excel to analyze it. On term, I didn't get the exact question. Or maybe you and I can take it outside.
No, we'll have to take it here, not outside.
Okay, thank you. I think I had a comment, but on the issue of the role of student assistant now, because there's technology, of course, I take that it was not included in the study, but just to clarify that there's too much to be done even in the era of technology. That's why we still have librarians in the library and everybody else, because especially in this era of AI, we have copyright issues, digital literacy that librarians are doing to assist so that students should be able to use, plagiarism issues, but also just digital access, because now we have digital libraries where people have to access. But again, not everybody is online. We still have students who are coming to the library because they cannot, for whatever reason, afford or the digital divide that we have. But I'm very much thankful. It means that we need to highlight that in the study. We'll do that. Thank you.
Another round of questions. Number one. You also want to follow up, right, with the term? Oh.
Okay, sorry for that. I missed the issue of a staffing gap, and I think it's also very much important. As I understood it, it says we also need to pursue it, and I think that's what we'll do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's one question this side. You want to follow up on, is it term? What did it? Yeah, we need to clarify it here. There's number 3. Okay. You want to follow up, ma'am?
Thank you, Prof. Good morning, colleagues. I think this one is a general comment for all of us. I want to believe that when we gather like this, our role is much more than that of commenting, for instance, based on what presenters present. But I think we could also use what is being presented as a springboard to take our research up, not just necessarily that of the presenters, but for everybody who is in the room, we should be learning from the whole process. I'm saying this because there was something that was asked in the first round of questions with regards to a theoretical and conceptual framework, and something similar has come up again in this current round of questions. I don't know, but the first thing that I think I was taught when I was a graduate student, which was a very long time ago, possibly it's outdated, that's why we never even worry about it. But there is nothing that is a holy cow when it comes to the whole research, like the processes, for example. There is nothing that's a holy cow. We can produce new knowledge even when it comes to the very conceptual framework or theoretical framework. I may not necessarily be interested in the study for the sake of the study, but because I want to extend the theoretical framework or the conceptual framework. The fact that people will use two theories, it means one theory can never be enough. That also means, even if I can use 6 theories, those 6 theories may not be enough. I therefore need to bring in that conceptual theory. Because that conceptual theory, that one, it's me constructing a theory because the theories that are there are not serving my purpose adequately. And from there, it will then develop to being a theoretical framework that is accepted and used widely. But that's where we start. That's where we start. So it's always advisable for people to, yes, you have your theoretical framework, but the minute you feel that it is not serving you adequately, then go all the way, go to your own theoretical framework, which is not a theoretical framework, because at that point it's still a conceptual framework, but you are trying to make sure that it suffices and it serves the purpose of your own that you want to use a theoretical framework for in that particular study. So nothing is a holy cow. You can develop even your own research methodology. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Of course, I just wanted to, especially the presenter number 2, there's the last objective that you put in there, which is to contribute to this. That may not be researchable. In other words, it is part of the outcomes of your study. Your study will contribute to that. So it shouldn't have been on the specific objective list. Although that risks, answering what my sister has commented about. One aspect about research is that there's what is known as the logic of research. There are certain things that are generally agreed and the processes that are also to be followed. That's why you have supervisors, and that's why you have external examiners. They will be looking at things from their own perspective and probably be looking at them from the logic of research. But I thought to contribute to this is not a specific objective. It is the outcome of the overall study. Thank you.
it was emphasized that we need to learn from each other. So taking that question outside, we will be disadvantaged. So we want to explore it further.
My question was, in your theoretical framework, you use term. Term has key constructs, ne? So my question was, in your study, did you extend the framework, like including factors like government support, digital skills, and access to resources, as your topic speaks about ICT in the library? So did you, as UTEM have those 5 constructs, did you add the constructs kwi study sakho that speaks about the factors that affect the student in the Limpopo province? Uyavakala ngokombuzo? Okay.
Thank you very much. As you are preparing to respond, I also want to contribute to the issue of theories, relevance, and so on and so forth. More often we get masters and PhD for examination, and you find out that even in doctoral thesis, a theory is completely out of context. It has been used out of context, and which brings us now to the fact that more often we tend to rely on theories of the North, which are problematic because sometimes they are not applicable to our context in Africa. Hence, many scholars are advocating and also addressing the 2016 student fees must fall campaign to say we need to decolonize some of our work that we are doing, because theories of the North sometimes tend to be irrelevant to our African context. We need to go to the theories of the South. We come up with our theories and also add up those conceptual framework. I thought I should also contribute to the discourse on the use of theoretical approaches. Sometimes we use 3, which it's not easy to manage in one thesis or dissertation. Perhaps focus on one theoretical approach so that it can be used properly in one study. So I'm going to give the presenters a chance to respond to the comments and the questions that were asked.
Thank you very much. I heard your question. In addition to what, I'll come back to them as well. The only constructs that were applied here were 2, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. The other ones that you mentioned, no, were not included right here. So, only 2. And then again, to what you said in general, indeed, the theoretical area, I call it a contested area, and it continues to be, based on the fact that there is still a misunderstanding when you look at the theory and the conceptual framework, and then again you go to the model. Then when people start to apply those theories, let me say you're applying 2, you might find that there's no single theory that can address what you want to work on. And then you find 2 constructs from that other theory, and then 3 on the other theory. And then from there, when you start to put them together, I think somewhere that is when the conceptual framework is conceived. If both theories have got all the constructs that they want to work on, and then you can work on them, but make sure that you do not lose any of them during the study, because as soon as you lose one, the study becomes invalid. So that is why actually it is, I think, maybe next time when we come to IPADA, we need to dedicate one day for talking about theories only, to the point where we find out why are we still not having the local theories? Why do we still rely on the ones from outside? What does it take to get your conceptual framework to become a theoretical framework? Yes, so it is something that those who have been in the academic field for too long can be able to guide us up until we get something. Even when it comes to the methodology, Creswell has become the household name. And the question is, are we not having our own researchers? What are we really doing? Are we only concentrating on the findings? Why are we not expanding our own, the methodology itself? So it is something that IPADA next time will have 6 days, and the other one will be meant for it. Thank you.
I think it was also a comment, but I need to acknowledge that I was trying to be politically correct to avoid recommending and proposing, because I was afraid that I was going to say I proposed the framework and at the end of it we did not have the framework, but I'll take that out and put out of the objectives. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, we have 10 minutes. We can take the last round and then break for tea. And then after tea, we start here with the last presentations that will be after 11 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Dumelo Mudiba from UNISA. I need to add on what the latter speaker said about the issue of ICT in library. At the University of South Africa, we have the 10 catalytic niche areas, whereby one of the presenters spoke about the student support, of which fall within that. So we have, in student support at University of South Africa, we have that thing we call the ACT Suite, whereby we have the disability students. Those students are being catered in terms of this. In terms of the online resources, we support them by enhancing efficiency of the delivery of information, whereby they benefit to get that information very fast because we cater them, because we understand that they belong to a certain group. So the Student Support Act, like, how do we support our students in terms of the online system that we use, because we mainly teach online. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to respond to this comment?
It's student support and co-curricular activities. So part of it we support in the student, yes, but one other thing is that we need to engage the student with some activities that are not necessarily in the curriculum, but they contribute to the curriculum. Meaning, for example, in libraries, when we do book clubs and literacy and everything, that is co-curricular. We're not necessarily having book clubs as a curriculum, but we know that as part of them to function very well, they need those literacy. They should be readers so that they could be doing that. Hence, even the issue of them working in the library is not part of the scope to say you cannot pass because you haven't worked in the library, but that is, like I'm saying, the niche area is very clear. We need to prepare the student beyond just academic roles. So when they go out, they should be competent. They should have learned beyond just the curriculum. Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to the end of this session. Let's give them a round of applause. Yeah, colleagues, will now break for tea, and then 11 o'clock, we'll have the 3 presentations, which will take us to lunch. Thank you very much.
Students have cited some of these. They said when they are at school, whether post-secondary or before university, there is always a limited time because there's a lot of work that they do at schools, and maybe these services are not rendered to them because of that, and maybe lack of digital access, because some cited that if maybe there was a way of accessing these services, maybe online, it would be better for them. And then some cited that there is a stigma around career counseling. And as such, they cited that some thought that career guidance is only meant for learners or students that are struggling and not for everyone. So, and as such, some miss these services. And the possible improvements that are recommended by the study is that these services, so these come from the participants, that these services may be extended across the academic journey, and they have said as targeting the first years, suggesting that these are included maybe into the orientations on the online platforms, as well maybe integrated in the classroom modules. And they also recommended that universities do form partnerships with the alumni and the employing companies so that they are enriched with their careers. Coming to the study recommendations, the first recommendation is the institutional support, where more resources need to be allocated so that they strengthen the career guidance services, or maybe hire the more qualifying career professionals. And again, the integration in the curriculum, as I have already mentioned earlier on, and the awareness campaigns that need to be conducted, and then the monitoring and evaluation, where there is an implementation and a regular feedback mechanism to evaluate and improve the impact of these services. So for the future recommendations, maybe future research may include maybe the role of career guidance and in the institutional support, so that we can see what will be the output, or even extend the research to other academic disciplines, as this one focused only to commercial subjects or commercial students. And then again, what the future research may look to is the gender and career. We know that there are those careers that are taken, or to be believed that they fall under male category. So if we do render these services effectively, so we can be able to minimize the gender segregation to certain professions. So in conclusion, career guidance significantly impacts the commercial student confidence in making choice of their careers, and especially, and again, for them to be able to prepare themselves for future employment. And given its critical role in academic success and long-term employability, universities, especially like those that are in the Eastern Cape province, must invest in well-resourced and student-centered career programs. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Just to recap, we started with a paper on instructional leadership. Now we are looking at career guidance. We are going to wrap it up by looking at corruption. The paper on corruption, you can come and tell us the story about corruption. So please jot down your questions for the first first two presentations, including this one, so that we can engage them meaningfully after this last presentation. Colleagues, remember that when you present your work, you expect some feedback and questions so that you can improve your work going into the future. So questions and comments will be welcome after this presentation so that the presenters can benefit from your comments and questions.
This one. Okay.
Over to you, Muida.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and my colleagues from other institutions. I am Richard Muila from the University of South Africa, as you can see, the logo. I am going to talk about the forms and spheres of higher education corruption. I will tell you why as I move on. I decided to look at this topic simply because as academics, we always point fingers somewhere else, and I decided it's better if we also look at ourselves, because we cannot be immune from this particular phenomenon. So we all know that corruption is an ancient phenomenon, and it is universal. You know, it goes to all of the sectors. It does not choose whether you are a developed country, you are a developing country, you are a regulated or deregulated economy, and it also does not choose between democracies and dictatorships. And it also does not have an eye to see that this is a private institution, this is a public institution. So what I'm trying to say is that it covers all the sectors of the economy. So indeed, it is not immune to any sector. Therefore, higher education is also a very important sector. However, there is a scarce academic research on corruption in particular. So higher education corruption impacts negatively on skills development, thereby hindering long-term economic growth. We all know that if the people in the country are educated well, then they can contribute to the economic development of their country. I think that is what we all believe in. Now, corruption is negatively affecting the skills development in our country. And furthermore, corruption deprives the poor in particular, the people who are poor, or the children of the masses, people who depend on from hand to mouth, particularly the working classes. They are negatively affected by corruption in higher education, with the result that many of their children are perpetually trapped within that phenomenon. They remain poor forever. Now, background and context of the study. We all know that research has been done in many spheres of this general concept we call corruption. For example, research has been done on academic misconduct. It has been done on research misconduct, cheating, diploma mills, as well as plagiarism. However, there is still a gap that needs to be investigated on corruption in higher education institutions. So academics, this is what I believe in, that as academics, we always point a finger there. We forget about ourselves. So this is a challenge to us, that we must also start looking at ourselves. We always look at other sectors. You might have, I think, listened to many presenters in this particular conference who spoke of corruption, but in other sectors, particularly in the government. But they never said anything about corruption that is rife in higher education institutions. So they always hide behind autonomy, that as academics, we are autonomous, we can say anything on other sectors of the society. So I'm bringing this challenge to you so that you can see that indeed corruption is taking place within higher education institutions. With this paper, I'm seeking to identify forms and spheres of higher education corruption. Then the problem statement of this paper is arguing that corruption is rife in higher education and requires further study. Hence, I am now standing in the podium talking about higher education corruption. So, literature review has been conducted to evaluate how profound, how deep is the scourge of corruption in higher education. And the paper postulates that policymakers and higher education institutions should pay more attention to forms and spheres of higher education corruption. And it also includes that when we talk of corruption, we refer to fraud, bribery, as well as plagiarism. We know, as academics, we always often write and sometimes copy and paste. That is a form of corruption. If you copy and paste and you don't reference the people you have used their information in whatever you write, it can be a study guide, it can be anything that you are involved in writing. It needs you to acknowledge those who came with those ideas first. It does not say that you should not read what other people have written. Of course, we need to read about what other people have written, but we need to acknowledge them. If you don't do like that, then you are committing an element of corruption, which we call plagiarism. Now, I decided to come up with the research questions, not the objectives, because they talk about the same thing. You know, objectives respond to the research question. Therefore, I decided to use only the research questions. One, what are the forms and spheres of corruption in higher education, and how can they be prevented? Because the most important thing is to capture this corruption, and then we avoid it. Two, how does corruption in higher education affect graduates' competencies versus the training needs of their employers? Now, the research design and methodology of this paper has been informed by the academic books. I read academic books. I read journal articles. What I was not sure about is whether an article has been published in an accredited journal or not. As long as it is from a Google scholar, then that has been used. And even newspaper articles were evaluated, because we know that newspapers give us fresh information on a daily basis. So I use all those forms of information. Now, from that, I have came up with the themes. One, it was on the spheres and forms of higher education corruption and graduate competencies. Two, forms of corruption which include bribery, nepotism, favoritism, fraud, embezzlement, cheating, plagiarism, ethical misconduct, and breach of conduct. All those are within the sphere of corruption. Now, spheres of corruption which include access to education, the academic process, graduation, credentials, as well as licensing and accreditation also formed part of the themes which were developed after reading academic books, journal articles, as well as newspaper articles. The literature review was informed in terms of the theoretical framework. In this sense, I have used two theories to adapt this particular literature review. For example, you can see that I use a bad apple theory, as well as organizational culture theory. So the two, if you look at a bad apple theory, it does not generalize to all the people who work in the higher education institutions. We always say there are bad apples within or among ourselves, meaning that not everybody is doing what the other person is doing. And we know that people involve themselves in corruption simply because sometimes they lack moral values. They have got poor moral values. Yes, there are many people who sometimes do not feel satiated with whatever they get. They want to get more. And as they want to get more, they become greed. Hence, the theory, bad apple theory. Uncontrollable desire for higher standing. There are people who cannot want to live simple as academics and earn what they deserve. As academics nowadays, we are involved in what I call, we like to be occupying certain standings in the society, so that when people see you, they see you in a particular way because you are driving a big car, you are living in a posh house. So all those uncontrollable desires lead to corrupt tendencies from ourselves as academics. I'm doing this not because I am not an academic. I am an academic, but I decided to look into ourselves. And the other theory that I have used is that of organizational culture theory, simply because corruption sometimes is a function of group culture. And this group culture emanated from the organizational culture of an institution. This means that some corporate cultures create a fertile ground for corrupt behavior. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I decided to tap into several definitions of corruption. They all talk about the same thing: abuse of power for personal gain, and Nye defines corruption as the behavior which deviates from the formal duties of a public role. We know if you want to serve the public, you must do what is good for them. But very often we deviate from that which is good to serve our own selfish interests, because we tend to be greed. We want more. We want to get more. And Halak and Poison define educational corruption as the systematic use of public office for private benefit, whose impact is significant on access, quality, or equity in education. So we can talk of many definitions as we like, but because we don't have more time to talk about this, so corruption needs to be stopped, and it is the responsibility of all of us. You decide whether you want to be a morally good academic who must reject temptations to be involved in corruption, or you may decide to be a wicked academia or academic who decide if people give me an opportunity to acquire, then ilahlile. So people sometimes have that kind of a tendency to say, well, what can I do? They are dangling a carrot, therefore I can grab it. So it depends, but it is our responsibility as academics, yes, as academics, to stop this. So I'm not going to be reading everything because of time. Forms of corruption and its spheres traces globally. So I included this heading simply to show you that corruption does not only happen in Africa. In fact, the headquarters of corruption are not based in Africa. They are somewhere in Europe, in all the countries. As you can see the slides there, we talk of corruption in Spain, in UK, in Italy. Corruption is there. and it happens in higher education institutions. So we need to be responsible, particularly because in Africa we're labeled as people who are corrupt. But in essence, corruption starts in these developed countries. We're just getting handouts of corruption in Africa. That one I can say, you know, that we are labeled as if we are the ones who are born with this, but that is not the way we are. We can always, you know, be good people, good academics, and stop it, stop corruption, you know, in its tracks. So in that slide you can see corruption happens all over the world, particularly in higher education institutions. So, for example, there are several causes of corruption. Education has been now, is where money is being poured. There is a lot of flow of money into higher education institutions. That is why there is a lot of corruption now. And also, the manner in which students want to acquire education without working for it. You know, they can afford to pay an academic to write, you know, theses or dissertations for them. And as academics, we become tempted, you know. So we've got all sorts of students today who can always make us be involved in corruption. So the discussions of research results is on the higher education system will seem to be infested with fraud and corruption. Higher education is prone to bribery. Ethical misconduct is another form of corruption in the higher education sector. And we can go on and on. Admissions at universities are fraught with corruption. If you have money, you can always get into a higher education institution. Now, in terms of the recommendations of the study, we can use the United Nations so that they come up with a plan of how to deal with corruption in higher education globally. So because of time, I cannot read everything here, but of course there are limitations for this study. It cannot be generalized to all the higher education institutions, you know, because of the manner of the methodology, because we use Google Scholar, academic books, and newspapers. So future research needs to be done so that we deal with the scourge of corruption. Now, indeed, in terms of the conclusions, we need to forms and spheres of higher education corruption were identified. They are fraud, bribery, plagiarism, ethical misconduct, and nepotism, and so on and so on. There are many. So curriculum development should be a joint venture between higher education institutions and employers. And with that, colleagues, thank you very much for listening to me.
Much for the presentation. I'm going to invite all the three presenters to come and sit on stage. I've got hot seats for you. Very hot. Here's another hot seat. another hot seat. Yeah, before I take a round of questions, I hope, Muila, the last presentation, you were not attempted to write a dissertation or a thesis for your student. I'm going to, it's just a comment. I'm going to invite 3 questions. We've got 30 minutes, I think. Yes, we've got 30 minutes. Let's engage them, colleagues. They need your comments and questions so that they can improve their work going into the future. So I'll take 3 questions. There's the first one here, another one there. Let's get the third one, Okay, I'll start this side. I'm sure these questions will trigger some of the questions so that we can engage them.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, presenters, for taking the hot seat and for the good presentations that you did. However, my comments and questions are on the last speaker. 1, you touched a lot of things. It's gruesome to touch a lot of things. And this is, I'm not sure whether it's a paper or a dissertation. Corruption. When you talk about corruption, you talked about students who get lecturers or whoever paid to do articles for them. 1. 2, administrators who get bribes and you termed that as corruption. I have heard you talk about corruption, and you're touching different people. Those claims are very, very dangerous in the academic space. When you talk about something without a reference, a proper reference, and exact way it is happening, how it is happening, who is doing it, when are they doing it? It's a claim. And we are here for academic purposes. Those people need to be put on task, but this is not just a talk, it's like academic writing. Reference it. Give us a proper referencing. Your sources are outdated to 2007. And you need to develop that. Your exclusion policy need to be applied, and tell us which years you took from the newspapers. If the newspapers are an authentic, because newspapers can say this tomorrow, next day they say something else. Your sources should be academically tabled according to the years. Why are you including this? Why are you not including that? Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to have taken so long. Thank you.
So you have noted the
Yes.
question?
Okay, thank you. I think some of the things that I wanted to raise from the last speaker, they are covered. Because I was going to ask a simple question, where did you collect your data? Because to me it sounded like a talk, an address by minister somewhere rather than a research paper. But my question goes to the first speaker. When I thought I understood what instructional leadership according to your paper is, somewhere I got lost because it sounded like it's more of when we give outcome-based education, but somewhere now it becomes more of a leadership thing. But most importantly, what I wasn't sure, because you played around wheel, was the study wheel, the study found out. My question is on your sampling. You indicated that you'll have 2 deans, 2 students, 2 something, and then I'm asking myself that in one university, for example, deans are head of colleges or head of
faculties. Depending on the size of the faculty, of the university, you might even have 5, 6, or 7 deans. Senior lecturers are all over so what will be your reason? Validate, maybe with sources, what will be your sampling procedure and what will be your reason? And then the career guidance person, you said you'll be looking at impact. And normally when you talk about impact, it means you moving from a particular shape, and when something is impacted, you'll have a different aspect. Then I'm thinking about the different variables, because if I'm coming from my different social background, I may not necessarily have the same result with the, so how are we going to manage the variables to ensure that your results are validated? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I am also going to focus on the last speaker. The two previous speakers have highlighted the concerns in your presentation. But when I followed your presentation, I wanted to ask you, who are the leading proponents of anti-corruption, taking into account the literature that you have reviewed within South Africa, or that you claim to have been reviewed in South Africa, in Africa and the globe. And I also wanted to know from you the specific newspaper articles that have highlighted the corruption that you claim to be happening within institutions of higher learning, and the themes that emerged from your presentation. I want to know if those themes emerged from you extrapolating them from a literature review, or they are you have extrapolated them from your empirical data set. And then the colleague had asked this particular question, but I'm asking it also. Now, which institutions were your research site? Whether are those predominantly white, or how do I put it, previously white institutions, or are predominantly previously black institutions? And then if at all you have obtained ethical clearance for this particular study, because I think if we are to take your study very seriously, it has to adhere to all the ethical protocols guiding research in institutions of higher learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm now going to give the presenters an opportunity to respond to questions and comments, then we'll take the second round. To start
now. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to start with the first colleague who asked a question. In fact, she was making some advices on how this particular paper can be strengthened, because indeed the purpose of us coming here and present to you colleagues is for you to provide some advices, not necessarily for us to defend, particularly a paper like this. You know, it's not supposed to be like I'm here to say I'm supposed to be convincing you. No, I'm here to take advice from yourselves, because indeed this paper is very important. And you may ask a question. I did this deliberately so that I can provoke. Yes, yes. We cannot always look there. The sources which I have found here, they are in Google Scholar. You can Google them. You will find them in Google Scholar. Some of the reports come from the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. And we know that certain institutions in South Africa, without mentioning the names, because we need to indemnify them. We need to indemnify them. There were some investigations which were done by esteemed professors on corruption within the institutions. We can't name them. And we need to talk about that so that we can say that indeed our institutions are without any corruption. Because if we don't talk of these, we brush them aside and we consider the institutions of higher learning as angelic, then we are doing a grave mistake, because we need to interrogate what is happening. If indeed the institutions of higher learning are free from corruption, then it's a good thing to the society. And for us to know that these institutions of higher learning are indeed free from corruption, we must look at them. Yes, you can question the legitimacy of those sources, but I'm challenging you to check in the Google Scholar, because that is where we get most of the information. And the second colleague, if my memory serves me well, asked a question, where did you collect your data? I have already responded to that. I went through the Google Scholar. Yes, I collected. I did not. Yeah, I know. Sorry. Okay.
The question was posed freely and he didn't interrupt, so when he responds, let's expect the same, not to interrupt him, because he has posed issues and are questioning issues and he must respond to issues.
Thank you, Chair, for protecting me. Yes, indeed, we need to question. And as you question, sometimes the responses that come, you may not like them, because indeed, no, it's true. I am an academic like you. I teach the students like you. So the fact of the matter is that I can't mention the institutions, as the third colleague requested me to do. I said I'm going to indemnify those institutions, but we all know that the Parliament of South Africa has been investigating some of our institutions without mentioning their names. They were investigating the manner in which things were done. You know, there is
a portfolio committee on education, on higher education in the parliament. So there will be always be differences of opinions. Thank you, Chair.
Oh. Thank you for the two questions that came from one of the audience. I think the first one is on two verbs mentioned. There is will, future, was, past. And I think by answering the question of will and was, as far as I understand, when you talk about the conceptual paper, you talk about something that we have not researched about yet, which you use as a pilot study. Let me put it that way. That is what I've done. In the case of will, it's something that I'm still going to do. So with this paper and a methodology, I haven't interviewed anybody. Yes, I haven't observed any university and so on and so forth. So it's something that I think I'm still gonna be doing. So with this paper, I'm just piloting. Coming to was is applicable in what I've explained because I'm talking about what I reviewed from the current studies that talk about my topic. So that's how was came in because I'm talking about something already done. So in a nutshell, my findings are based on the literature. Hence I said I haven't interviewed anybody. So I'm piloting with this in preparing for my PhD study next year. Coming to the issue of senior lecturers, who are senior lecturers, I presume that, I'm sorry for operating on presumption. Senior lecturers that I'm talking about are under the Department of Education, not in law or in other faculties, as well as deans. So I wouldn't be talking about deans in the Faculty of Law when I'm talking about curriculum, curriculum in the higher institution of learning. So I think all the population that I mentioned is relevant to my study in that they are directly involved in the leadership in their respective faculties. If you are talking about dean, I presume that deans give instructions to heads of departments. Head of departments should give instructions to lecturers or lecturers. Lecturers should also give instruction to students. If you heard me well, I made mention of the class representatives who should also be giving instructions to their fellow students. So in that way, I'm sorry for not mentioning that all these people are directly involved in the instructional leadership. Lastly, I think from my topic, the main concept is instructional leadership. So I wouldn't be focusing much on the student outcomes when the topic wanted to find out what is it that instructional leaders are doing in terms of improving instructional leadership. So I'm trying to say that the main focal point for this is on instructional leadership, the way it operates in higher education of learning. So there's no confusion in that. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, thank you. I think mine is small. If I got you well, ma'am, I think you talked about the impact of a career guidance, whereas my topic was talking about the effects, and effects are specific, whereas the impacts are broader. So, and the topic was specifically looking at these in this specific area, geographical area, which is an underserved institution. So if the study maybe was undertaken somewhere else, so surely the results may differ. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to protect the last speaker, colleagues, the constitution of the country is explicit about freedom of speech. So in that context, I would like to protect the last speaker. Normally, we don't want to talk about corruption. We fully know that there are academics who publish their student work and claim to be their work. There are academics who appoint external examiners, and behind the scenes, they are manipulating results. There are academics who do sorts of things, and we don't want to talk about those things. So this paper is directly challenging us to say, let us reflect on us as academics as well, and not be shy to talk about these things. Okay, I'm going to allow, when I give you an opportunity to talk, please don't be personal to my presenters. Address things constructively and academically without being personal. We are here to learn from each other, and if you don't like what they've said, you better keep quiet. I'm going to give 3 other people an opportunity to talk. The first one there, the second one, who's there? If you want to follow up, I'll allow you to engage him off this room, because I don't want a situation where now the third one, I'm avoiding conflict. Can you give me an opportunity to chair this session? This is my session. And this is my session, and I'm going to control my session. In terms of the program, it says David Bohopa will chair this session, and this is how I'm going to operate. I've got 2 people now. The third one, no, I don't want the people. So I'll have 2 now. Let us not be personal, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. One thing that came across as they were presenting, for me it was very clear that the 2 are still at the very early exploratory stages. And therefore our response to them should be by way of advising, so as to assist them to go further. The mistake they made was not to declare upfront. So honesty goes both ways in academia. That burden of declaring, you have it as well, just like everybody else has it. So it would help colleagues. I'll be very happy to hear us assisting them to polish their work rather than shooting them down, please.
Thank you. You want to follow up?
Chair, I agree with all the speakers. They have brilliant papers that we can look at and refine and also learn from. But Chair, you made statements that there are institutions, there are academics who take credit for work they didn't do. You also mentioned, Chair, if I heard you correctly, that they even collude with external examiners. Chair, please share the name of the institutions, because we don't want to associate with such institutions in academia. This is you making statements. If I heard you clearly, on YouTube and Facebook, that is live right now, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was thinking that no, perhaps the last speaker should have been clear whether the paper presented is a theoretical paper or a position paper or a conceptual paper, let me put it that way, or it's whether an empirical paper, so that when you are making such claims that you have made, then we are able to say, oh no, that is only extrapolated from papers that you have read, but you have not gone to the field to be able to come and make such very dangerous statements that you have made. Though they might be true, but you do not have evidence to support the claims that you are speaking of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We don't have a question yet.
Okay. I'm on speaker career guidance. One thing that maybe I forgot to ask earlier, but then just to go back a little, your objective says impact, even though maybe you can go and revisit. Then I was also, when you said you had student, I'm thinking career guidance to empower the students, obviously to clarify. That's my thinking, because it was not clear, to clarify maybe the career that they will take with whatever that they, hence you did not consider the first year. But now I'm asking if you were dealing with a specific department to come and choose. I mean, where did you take the students to interview? Meaning that I'm also saying your population and data collection procedure need to be clarified. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to? You fine? Okay. Yes, we'll very much like to get some advices on the papers. If you are personal, I'm taking the mic.
Chair, thank you for protecting your hot seat people, the three of them. I'm going to give an advice to the last speaker, the last presenter. Google is a search engine. An engine of a car occupies a bigger space in the front of the car. It has got small pipes, big pipes, medium, and so forth. Google is an engine. Find out from Google the little space where you position the title of your paper. Come up with the years where you are positioning your small topic within. Become an aircon if you want to be an aircon. Become the gear lever within the engine. You can't put a claim of Google Scholar and stand and say, you're standing to tell us about an engine. Position yourself. Give us the years, the number, specific number of searches of the book and the years that you took, preferable 3 years, 2022 to 2025. Thank you. And 5 books only, not too much.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting topic. Before I give it to you, there was a question regarding, I think, the methodology. Is it your paper or his or your paper? Career guidance. Who was talking about?
Can you please, ma'am, repeat for me?
Okay, I was just saying, maybe as part of revisiting and refining your study, from the way you have sampled, and even just the description of the population, so that we'd understand why you have arrived at that specific number, even the actual procedure, it was not clear. Maybe I don't know whether it's in the paper somewhere, but if it's not there, maybe just to make sure that you answer the crucial methodological issue data collection procedure from population, validation, and just like that. It's a comment, it was not a question, yeah.
Okay, before, I'm not going to respond to question on the names of the people who write papers for, right? I'm not going to, remember there is freedom of speech in the country. I say things because I know them. And mentioning the names, it's also my prerogative. I'm not coming to IPADA to badmouth other colleagues, but I know that those are the facts. And I was not presenting any paper here. I was making a comment to say we know of people who publish their work, publish student work and claim to be their work. So that is that we know, it's a fact, and people know that. Thank you. I'm going to give Mila a chance to respond. Mila, another advice would be, if you want your work to see it, you better go for a book project and self-publication, because if it goes for peer review, people will not like your topic. You have already seen here that if you go the peer review route, your book won't see the light. But if you go for self-publication, like what Nhlanhla Make has already published some few years ago, Barbarism in Higher Education, it was self-publication. So it's allowed, as long as you are calling a spade, not a digging tool. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to all the colleagues, but in particular those who raised the questions, because, you know, academia is about talking. Perhaps let me start with my brother there. This is a conceptual paper. It's not an empirical paper. It is a conceptual paper. If you go to Google Scholar, that is why I'm saying, if you go to Google Scholar, you will find many papers that are on corruption in higher education. You will find a lot of them. So it does not make anyone incredible simply because you have gone to Google Scholar and then you decided to review those articles. That is, we need to review the articles so that we enlarge our thinking process. You know, I know people, particularly those who are aiming for promotions and the like, they will always go for simple things so that, you know, they can be published, they can be highly regarded. So some of us, it's not about to be promoted. It's about engaging, you know, the scholars, so that you can see how far people can go in terms of engaging one another. That is very important. We need to engage one another in a very serious way. And the third colleague spoke about advice. Yes, indeed, I am very happy that I got a podium to speak about this conceptual paper. Because, but tell me, I want somebody to tell me something here. You have never heard that there are certain institutions that are being investigated. I need you to be very authentic. you have never heard anything. I heard many, but it's just that we can't talk of names, because we need to respect those institutions. They are our institutions. But investigations in the country are going on and on. Thank you.
Do you still have appetite to engage? I think let us not spoil it. We heard that the presenters have spoken, and what they've said, it is what they've said. So let's give them a round of applause. I propose closure and lunch, early lunch.